Hey queer friends, are you ready to be inspired? Welcome to Season 5 of Coming Out and Beyond, a podcast that shares stories from the LGBTQIA+ community. Here's your host, Anne-Marie Zanzal.
Have you ever had to deal with a bully or have been bullied continuously by classmates or people that you were surrounded with? Or maybe you've done some bullying yourself. Well, today we have a very special guest on Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA plus stories. KaRon Spriggs-Bethea. He is a licensed clinical social worker in Pennsylvania and Ohio, as well as a social work professor. He has devoted his life to helping people in diverse populations because of his experiences growing up. He provides gender-affirming mental health treatment to individuals and provides clinical supervision and consultation to social workers and other mental health providers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you, and it's really good to have a bullying expert on this show because before you and I started recording, I was talking about how I've heard of so many gay men that have been bullied, and there really is, because of our former president's example, there is a culture of bullying now in the
Absolutely.
country, and I'm hoping that it'll go away soon. Hopefully in a month it'll start to dissipate, but we'll see what happens.
Right.
Yeah. So KaRon, could you tell me your story?
Yeah. So growing up, so unfortunately, I did not feel comfortable enough to come out until I was 21 years old. Due
That's
to
early in my community. You weren't that old, honey. You were just 21.
due to a lot of the stigma around, especially being black and
Mhm.
being male and being gay. Like it was very hard for me to sort of wrap my mind around being able to come out. My family, it wasn't anything around them. They were super supportive. It was mostly at school, because I saw how the students treated other students that were outwardly and openly gay, or somewhere within the community, identified somewhere in the community. And so for me, I got bullied all the time, asking me, yeah, you must be gay. You have to be gay. Because a lot of my friends were women or girls at the time. I mean, still, actually, that's probably
Yeah.
what it is. Uh, and so it really took a toll on me to even want to be open with that, even want to have conversations. I also didn't have any sort of, I guess, role models, for lack of a better word, except for media. Media, that's where I learned a lot of things, and really got into learning what things were within the community, things like that. Um, when I was especially in high school, that was where the bullying really started for me. And it wasn't just it wasn't just the like sexuality, it was also race related things. And not just from white students, any literally any student. So that was really hard. So that the intersections of sexuality and race really played a part in how I internalized a lot of what I was experiencing. I did.
I have some questions.
Yeah, please.
So, um, it's like the double whammy, right? That there's the queer piece and then there's the race
Right,
piece.
right.
So you experience bullying, so people of color, when they bullied you, was it more about your sexuality that they were bullying you about? Or was it, I mean, kids get bullied for all kinds of
All
reasons.
kinds of things.
And
Yes.
and if I know in the Black community, people can get bullied because of being too Black or not Black enough, or they can get bullied for hanging around with white people and
Right.
or not
Right.
sounding Black and all those
Yep.
things like that. So how did you get bullied by your your peers that were people of color?
Yeah, it was a combination of both of those.
Hmm.
It was people would say to me and question my sexuality,
Hmm.
but then also say, "Oh, would call me Oreo." And say I talk too proper, I'm not black enough, all of those sort of things. That was how I experienced a lot of high school.
Oh,
And it wasn't everyone. The like I won't say the school was known for bullying or was big on bullying, but there was a lot of it, and it was a lot of behind the scenes though too. So a lot of teachers didn't know about it. A lot of people, if you didn't experience it, you didn't know that people were getting bullied.
would the teachers be, would the, if a teacher found out, would they
Mhm.
be responsive?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the nice thing. But for me, I think I was a little more, I guess, embarrassed. Was probably the biggest thing. I didn't want to say anything to my family. I didn't want to say anything to the teachers, to the school, anything like that, because I felt like I, to some extent, brought it on myself, and couldn't say anything.
Hmm. Hmm. And that happens to a lot of kids that bully.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
I want to hear more of your story, but
Yeah,
we'll get to that. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, so going into yeah, throughout high school, and especially so I started doing musicals in high school when I was in my sophomore year. And so that was a lot of when the bullying started taking shape and taking form there too. And it was a lot of, yeah, again, you must be gay because you're in this
You're a theater
musical.
kid. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, but also on the flip side of that with race, oh, black people don't do musicals.
Mm.
Why are you doing this? Or don't do theater and things like that. And so that again, I went inward a lot. And but what I will say is I played it off very well. I was
Mm.
not, and not many people are able to hide that, hide the feelings that they're having. I honestly don't know how I was able to do that. I will say I did experience a lot of depression and anxiety throughout high school because of that, but I was also holding a lot of that in and did not
Well,
express that.
I'm wondering if it's compartmentalization, like you could put it
Yes.
away, you know,
Yes.
or also a dissociation. Like
Yeah.
you're going to say that, and the problem with dissociation, especially with the later in life community, is that if you disassociate from one thing, you dissociate from all things.
Right.
But you
Right.
didn't. You didn't, because so
Yes.
most likely it had been compartmentalization. You just put it away.
Yes, I was able to do that, and it was hard. I will definitely say it was hard. And I but one of the things that I will say I did have, I had the support of some friends. I had a couple friends in high school that I really was able to get along with. They were supportive, but and also some of them I knew since middle school. So we became friends in middle school. The one person that I became friends with in middle school is still my best friend today.
Mhm.
So that was nice, and that's one thing that we want to think about when we are getting bullied. Like stick no, I don't want to say stick with the people that support you, but really lean into those natural supports, those people that are gonna be there for you and really help with those feelings that you're experiencing.
But a lot of kids that get bullied often are loners, and they don't have that. Like I survived. I was in Sandy Hook the day it happened,
Mm,
and the boy that did the
yeah,
shooting, he was a loner. He was always
yeah.
somebody who was outside and was bullied a lot, you know. And so I'm crushed. Like, and I'm also a parent. I've got 4 kids,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I've seen my kids be bullied and bully people. And I'm just curious, like, as a parent, like, when you see your kid getting bullied and their social circle isn't very wide,
Right.
what's the best thing you can do?
So I think that one, it's one of the big things is potentially talking to the school a little bit and seeing what supports do they have at the school.
Mhm.
Are they having these conversations about bullying? I I'm very hesitant on like the zero tolerance policies, because that targets specific people sometimes, or specific demographics. So I don't want to say incorporate zero tolerance policies. But what are the consequences of someone bullying another student? And what does that look like? Are we having these conversations? Are the schools bringing these things up? I think as a parent as well, it is sort of sitting down and trying to have conversations with your children.
Mhm.
What's going on? I see there's something happening. I'm being observant. I'm talking to you. I want you to know that I'm a person. I'm a safe person. I can be a safe person. And being that person that can, or being the parent that can sort of have a non-judgmental conversation with the child. And I guess the other thing is having no expectations of the conversation. So let's just sit and have conversations. Let's just sit and talk about what you're doing, how you're feeling, and potentially making that a consistent thing. I usually talk about this when working with couples, like couples should have relationship check-ins, things like that. But I think this can be something that you do in families too. Let's
Mhm.
let's have a check-in of how you're feeling, what's going on, how's school, how you doing in school, things like that. Um, and also seeking out, it could potentially be seeking out help of a therapist, a group, seeing if they can, if they're, what are the children's hobbies. Can we get them into a group, a sport, something that would put them in, and maybe it's not with the school, maybe it's a community thing,
Yeah.
and you're working with the community to say, all right, these are people that live within our community. They may go to school with you, they may not, but they have things in common with you. Let's see what we can get out of it.
So you said that in the beginning, you said you didn't come out till 2021 and your
Hmm.
parents. Now, did you talk to your parents about the bullying that was happening with you in high school, or was that away in your little,
I did not.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
even
I'm
yeah.
curious. Why didn't you bring it up with them? I'm just curious.
So, I think it was a level of embarrassment. I'm the oldest of three, and so I felt like I needed to be
Perfect.
perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly. I needed to be the role model. I needed to be the person, to the strong person, the strong sibling. And so I did not feel like I could say something. And that was all within my head.
Yeah, yeah. Well, welcome to
Like
being
my
an most oldest children are like that. You should talk to
yeah.
my daughter. She's just like that, you know?
Like my
Yeah.
mom was fantastic. She would sit us down and try to have conversations with us, and even I would be like, no, I'm fine, everything's fine, and that was that. And so that was, I think that for me, again, the embarrassment, the shame, all of those sort of things, that all those emotions that do come up when it comes to bullying.
So you got out of high school finally.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
and how was college? Was that better?
Um,
Sorry,
yes
honey.
and no.
Okay.
College, I was able to find myself. I was able to be more open. Technically not until, yeah, about sophomore year, going into junior year. Um, but going in, I was still in the closet. I did not feel super comfortable. I will say, like, the internalized homophobia went
Mhm.
away. That was something that did go away. In high school, not so much.
All right. So I've got to ask you, since I'm an
Yes.
expert on internalized homophobia. How did your internalized homophobia go away?
It's, I think it was more of an acceptance. So um I started taking more classes in college that talked about LGBTQ plus topics.
Mhm.
I started talking to more people that were open and out on campus, and I was able to, and I think because I was away from, so let me tell you, where I went to college, it was not so different, at least demographically, from where I grew up. And so it was interesting that I was able to get out of that mindset of internalized homophobia in that setting. But I think because I was on a college campus and
Mhm.
they were very supportive, and every staff member, every faculty that I met, they were very supportive of LGBTQ plus individuals.
Well, yeah, and that makes sense because a lot of times it's so much for somebody who, I came out in my hometown, and then I ended up moving.
Hmm.
And it is harder to do it when you are in your home space.
Yes.
I went from being a married mother of four, straight married mother of four, to being, an out lesbian, and
Hmm.
took years, but I went from that. And the thing is that it was really hard to
Yeah.
be in my hometown after I was known as this, and I was a minister of two different churches. And I was, being known one way and then being known another. And I just
Yes.
really needed a fresh start.
Absolutely.
I just needed a fresh start. And when I was dating my wife back then, and it's our anniversary today, actually.
Oh, happy anniversary. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, we're not doing anything. We're doing it on Friday. But what I was gonna say is that, like one of the reasons when she said, we talked about moving in together, she said, she was whether she was gonna come up to Connecticut or I was gonna come down
Hmm.
here. And I said, I think I need a fresh start.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons. So it makes a lot of sense to me that when you were in college and you were not around the eyes of family and friends and all the,
Yeah.
but it was much more in college campuses, typically, unless you go to like Oral Roberts University, or Liberty University,
Yeah.
typically pretty accepting
Right.
places.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you had that gift of being able
Yes.
to like sort of grow up and be accepted. And also you're in the sociology department, correct? Or you
Social work.
social
Well,
work.
so in undergrad, yes, I did do
Yeah.
sociology and psychology, but
Which
now,
generally those professions are
yes,
on the generally are pretty progressive and very
absolutely.
accepting of people.
Yep.
What a
Yeah.
wonderful way for you to like, I'm real, that makes a lot of sense how you
Yeah.
got rid of your internalized homophobia.
It was still, I won't say pretty bad, but it was still kind of bad in my freshman year. I
Mhm.
did I had a roommate that was on the other side of the political spectrum than I am. And he was very vocal about LGBTQ plus individuals, rights, things like that. Like our uh, GSA at school put
Mhm.
up a condom tree during in December for AIDS Awareness Month.
Mhm.
He made a huge stink about it.
Mhm.
He he actually took it to the news. Um, I actually think there was a story on it.
Mhm.
And so that created a whole big thing around the campus. And
How long did you guys last as roommates?
so we actually did spend the entire rest of the semester
Oh.
together, or I should say the rest of the year. So we stayed roommates for the rest of the year. But luckily, because I had so many friends on campus, if I didn't want to go back to my room, I had a place to lay my head at certain points.
That's good.
Um, but yeah, during college, I first came out to my close friends at school. So we were just like sitting watching a movie, I think, and I just was like, wait, I need to be more myself at this point. And I was able to come out to them. Another person in our friend group actually came out to us all probably about a year or so before that. So I felt more comfortable in how I was doing that because I knew that everyone was going to be accepting and affirming. And so that helped me a lot. Think about that. Um, going into so when yeah so I that's when I first that was the first those were the first people that I ever came out to. That summer, actually, that's when I came out to my mom, my sister, and my brother.
Mhm.
And we talked about it. There were apologies and things like that of things that may have been said. You know, the F word was always flung around during that time, and so being able um, to have that and see that support from my family was amazing. And then once I graduated and from undergrad, I was able to really find my own. I told friends back home, I told my best friend back home, and then cycled into grad school and moved to Pittsburgh. And when I was in Pittsburgh, that's when everything really changed.
I know there's a pretty vibrant queer scene in Pittsburgh too, isn't
There
there?
is,
Yeah,
yes.
that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, because so I grew up in like the Harrisburg, Carlisle, Pennsylvania
That's probably more
area.
conservative, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. And so there, yes, I still didn't feel super comfortable. Even after being out, I didn't feel super comfortable with that. To actually at one point I was dating someone in secret.
Mhm.
So like I would go out of town
Mhm.
like 15, not 15, like 20, 30 minutes out of town to hang out with the person that I was dating at that point. And it was completely secret. Honestly, I don't think I actually don't
So,
think anyone but my best friend knew about this person. Not even my family.
so your internalized homophobia wasn't quite as far away as you.
Completely, yes.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Yes.
That takes a while.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like it just takes a while. I mean, because I also think like because of the work I do, I think it's also a function of the brain too. Like
Mm-hmm.
brain has to build new neural pathways going from, oh, I might possibly be straight to,
Yep.
oh, I am straight with my case to being,
Yep.
I've got to build some new neural pathways so I'm more comfortable with all this new information I'm learning about being queer. And I think it
Yep.
just takes a while. I think it takes, I would say 5 years from when you start realizing it to which you get to the, and then you just don't care.
Don't care. Yeah.
You just, like,
Exactly.
yeah, you just don't care. And it's really a
Exactly.
wonderful place to be in.
Absolutely.
You, like a lot of people that are caregivers,
Mhm.
professional caregivers, you took your experiences and you wanted to help others.
Yes.
So did you go into social work because you wanted to focus on bullying, or
Not
or
not
did
so
you
much
go for
bullying.
something else? Yeah.
Yeah, not so much I didn't say I wanted to particularly focus on bullying, but I wanted to be of I knew that going into social work, I wanted to work with LGBTQ plus individuals
Mhm.
because, as I said, I didn't have anyone in my life that I could identify with. I could get that support from, um, that could give me that space to be who I was. And so I wanted to be that person
Mhm.
for a lot of people. And so actually originally I was going to go into psychology and
Mhm.
do more like brain work, but then my advisor in undergrad was like, you should really check out social work. You should think about that because there's so much more that you can do with it. And going into social work, it did open up so many more opportunities. And actually, when I did my doctoral capstone for my doctorate, I actually wrote on how social workers can better utilize things like self-reflection, and techniques like that to increase and improve the services that we provide to LGBTQ plus individuals, which includes thinking about bullying and the experiences that someone may have. And
Mhm.
so that really solidified for me this space of being able to work within that realm of social work.
So we started talking about this a little bit, but can
Mhm.
you give me a definition of bullying?
Ooh. So I would say bullying is anything either verbal, physical, over the internet, virtual, that is intentionally harming someone,
Hmm.
intentionally picking at someone for whatever race, gender, sexuality, any identity, any combination of those identities, that someone has. And what we see is a lot of not even just in person, or yeah, the in-person bullying, but a lot of cyberbullying that comes up. And that's not just with kids.
Oh, it's with adults
There's
too.
adults doing cyberbullying at this
Well,
point too.
it's so funny. Like now, when I see something on, like, if I'm on Facebook for business
Hmm.
thing, and I see something, a lot of times, what sometimes I go to respond, and then I say to myself, "Do I need to waste my emotional energy?"
Mm, hmm.
And I'm like, "No, I
Right.
don't." And so
Absolutely.
I'm just not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so
S- can I tell you one story about that? So like when I was doing my doctoral program, or my capstone, I had thrown what is that called? My recruitment flyer out to the Facebook world. And you I don't want to say you wouldn't believe.
I would
I
believe it.
believe that. Yes, I
Yeah.
believe this is what's happening. But the amount of bullying text messages or comments that I would get on it was astronomical. And they were very vile, so I will not repeat what the people were saying, but it was it was terrible. And to
I
see
understand.
what people were thinking and saying, um on something that is helping a group of people that truly need help.
I understand because I put out, so I generally stay in queer spaces and
Hmm.
internet. I just do. It's safer. But I'm working with women just coming out. So a lot of times they're not in
Hmm.
spaces yet,
Hmm.
right? So I didn't add for my work on Facebook the amount of vitriol and hate. I didn't know, I can't figure out how to turn off commenting because I don't want, it's
Mm,
just an ad. I don't
right,
want anyone to comment. Keep your
right,
mouth closed. But and then
exactly.
I'm also like, and then I'm also aware, like, I took it down because I'm more aware that the people who want to come out and they see this vitriol, that is, doesn't scare me. It's going to scare
Right.
the shit out of them. And
Yeah,
I don't need to see that. So
exactly.
that's why I decided, but I was stunned. I really was stunned, Coran, that it was so vitriolic because I've been in the happy little Facebook groups I create and stuff like
Right. Yeah.
so I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, And so I also know that I'm somebody that I'm really I'm almost an empath, but I am somebody that's really sensitive. And so I can't, I can't, I just can't, it's too hard for my soul to handle
Absolutely.
that stuff. So I'm just,
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's why I took it down, but I get it. And I think it's the what's the word? Anonymity of
Yes.
that people will say things they would never say to a human being in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
like with racism and also with homophobia as
Hmm.
you know.
Yes, absolutely. The
Um,
media, social media has definitely made it a lot easier for people to be overtly racist, overtly homophobic. And I don't even just want to say social media, rhetoric, just rhetoric
yeah.
out there
Mhm.
is really something that comes up.
So I want to talk about something which you mentioned a couple
Yeah.
of times. It's shame. Um, because I know there's people listening that have probably had experiences like you and really never told anybody or talked about it. And you have identified that as shame. Like, okay, so when you are starting, like, okay, you're aware now, oh, I have been bullied. Like I've
Hmm.
actually
Hmm.
talked to a couple bullying experts on this show, and I realized that as an elementary school student was bullied a lot,
Hmm.
but because I was a shy, sensitive kid, and they were coming for me.
Right,
I
right.
was not, I was very different than the other kids, and it just, they were coming for me. So, you know, that shame piece, let's talk about that. So,
Hmm.
like, when you are somebody being bullied, what are some of the things that are going on that you may not identify it as shame yet, but you're
Mm.
like, for me, it was always like, with, I'm thinking about the incidences when I was younger, it was like, I just want them to stop.
Yeah,
I be their friend so I can get them to stop, you know?
yeah.
How about, what are some of the other feelings that we could classify as shame, though people may not see them as shame?
So maybe like feelings of like worthlessness.
Mhm.
Sometimes we see that as just yeah, we just being undeserving. Sometimes we see it as depression, which depression and shame do go pretty heavily together. Um, Shyness,
Mhm.
that's probably another one. Like I feel shame, so I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna be around people. I don't wanna be in this group and say certain things. Um, that could also be so shyness. Sometimes people just attribute that to be social anxiety,
Mhm.
and that's a big part of it. Um, there's a fear fear of looking stupid, acting stupid, saying something stupid. That is also typically attributed with something like social anxiety, anxiety generally, things like that. Um, Avoiding eye contact might be
Mhm.
another one.
Mhm.
So people may not realize like I am experiencing shame anytime I am avoiding this eye contact with someone because I don't want them to see I don't want them to see me. Um, hiding away. I'm
Mhm.
going inward. That is probably another symptom of shame that comes up.
So for people who have been bullied when they were young,
Hmm.
I think well, it happens all the time. But is there a direct line from people being bullying with behaviors like you just discussed? Like even as adults, they know, like they're like they avoid people. They, do like, does bullying, like when you are bullied as a child, does it have a long-term effect on you?
I do see that. I think a lot of the clients that I work with that have come in with things like social anxiety or things like anger, um, or feelings of worthlessness, being unlovable, that has they majority of the people have had some level of bullying, either that be in childhood or even adulthood that
Yeah,
they
you can get bullied at work
right
and stuff like that. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so I do see that there are some long-term effects. Like even for me, like there are still some times that I want to hide away.
I get
I don't want people to see me. I don't want people to like even as an adult, as we talked about, like yes, Pittsburgh has a very vibrant um LGBT queer scene. And even within that, I experience some levels of bullying.
that.
Not from a lot of people, but
Mhm.
some specific people, especially when it comes to dating. And
Mhm.
so that triggered a lot of my sort of like dating anxiety as well. As an adult going into things and wanting to talk to people and things like that. Like there were times where I just said, I don't even want to date anymore because of some of the experiences. And again, it wasn't just like sexuality, it was
Mhm.
also race, and fat phobia was a big part of it too.
Yeah, especially in the gay male community.
Yes.
I've heard
Yeah.
that time about, especially about weight. There's,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
I feel sorry for you all. It's really, it's hard to date. I mean, in every community, it's hard to date. But some
It
of
is.
the
Yeah.
from my friends, it's pretty rough out there for
Yeah.
guys. You
Yep.
know. So when you become aware of shame, like for
Hmm.
me, like how I have dealt with my shame is through mindfulness. Like when
Hmm.
I know I'm experiencing, like one of the things I do with my clients, I do like a five senses in shame, like what does shame
Yes.
feel like, taste like, all that stuff like that. But what I've realized that I know, like when I start to feel shame, which is, everybody knows when it comes up, right?
Hmm.
And how we feel it in our bodies is very different. For me, it's like this
Yes.
feeling rising in my from my belly to my chest. And so one of the things I do now, instead of falling into shame because I feel it coming on, I'm like, why am I feeling shame?
Hmm.
I'm like, what's going on right now? Why does this make me feel shame?
Yes.
So what are some of the ways people can learn? I mean, that's my way. What are some of the ways people can learn to deal with the shame that often has started when we've gotten bullied or
Hmm.
others or abused when we were younger? Well, that's just bullying too, but like how do you start to work with your shame? That's how I do it. How would you recommend
Yeah.
people to?
So absolutely mindfulness. I think that's a big part of it.
Mhm,
Um, It might also be beneficial. I'm a huge proponent for writing, journaling, things like that. So paying for people to pay attention to what are these feelings, what are these thoughts that I'm experiencing at this point. So when I work with clients that may be experiencing shame, maybe experiencing bullying, things like that, I will typically use like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy,
mhm,
to sort of let's explore those feelings, let's explore those thoughts, and what is for things that may not be rooted in any validity or has very little validity to it, let's try and challenge those things. Let's try to think about what I know is the truth, what I feel is the truth about me. And then I'll have people journal about those experiences. Sometimes we'll even do like experiments, like behavioral experiments. So going out and sort of whatever those thoughts are that they might be having about around that shame and potentially bullying, let's test out these thoughts. So one experiment could be, or I should say, one thought could be, I don't deserve to have friends. I don't deserve to be able to talk to people. And that's something that does come out that can come, that's a thought that might be able to come out of bullying. So what we would do in that experiment is talk to different friends that we do have, and just have conversations with them. But then also it could be just having conversations with, I don't want to say random strangers, but like people that are in my sphere, but I don't have ongoing sort of relationships with them.
right, right, right.
Excuse me. Um, I think that we also can do a lot with thinking about like self-love, self-esteem, self-worth, and sort of challenging some of those thought processes that we may have. And what does that sort of look like for me? And do I and can I find those people, those things, those places that give me that life, for lack of a better word, to do the things that I like to do.
Mhm,
Um, I don't want to avoid we have to acknowledge the feelings. We have to acknowledge
Yeah, you
the
have to.
emotions that we're having. So we don't want to shy away from them. So can I talk to these people that do fill my cup and have these conversations with each other to sort of say, I yeah, I've been bullied. I feel that shame. And I did feel that shame, but now that I'm talking to others, I don't feel as shameful around it.
Well, it's interesting because you're using the three tenets of radical self-compassion.
Yes.
Self-kindness, I use that with my groups, my Lotus group coaching. It's self-kindness, shared common humanity, and
Yeah.
mindfulness. And it
Yeah.
works. It
Absolutely.
and being kind to ourselves, like, and not going into beating ourselves up. And I
Yes.
smiled when you said our topic, my topic with my group this week is self-esteem and self-worth. And so I
Nice.
was laughing because it's the theme of the week apparently with me. But self-worth is inside work, while self-esteem often comes from the things we've achieved.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
so, self-esteem is not a bad thing,
No.
but
Right.
self-worth is knowing that you're loved, knowing that you are lovable no matter what you bring.
Mm-hmm.
While
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem is, "Oh, I've gotta bring something to the table to be loved." Am I right?
So I would say self-worth is more of bringing something to the table. Like
Mhm.
I my worth is based on me being able to do this. So a lot of people base their worth off of the amount of friends that they have. They base their worth off of what they do, their job, what they can bring to the table. So yeah, I would say self-worth is more of yeah, what I bring to the table, what I can do for someone. Self-esteem. Yeah, self-esteem, I see that as more, it's more internalized. I mean, we do have situations where our self-esteem is based off of what others see of us,
Yeah.
how they perceive us, things like that. But a lot of it is going to be that internal dialogue, for lack of a better word.
Mhm, mhm. I see that you do a lot of work with gender, um,
Yes.
and, how's it going these days? It's pretty rough out there, isn't it?
So, yes.
Yeah.
So there is a fear that I have. There's some fears that I have. One of the things. So actually, I just wrote a blog post about like election anxiety,
Yeah.
uh, and some tips and tricks around that. And like one of the things, and the reason why I wanted to do that is because that is the biggest conversation that's coming up, and it's coming from people that are within the LGBTQ plus population, specifically people that I work with in gender affirming care. And so that has been a huge topic that again, it's scary because we don't know what the outcome of things are going to look like. There's a lot of things going around, a lot of rhetoric. I just saw a political ad the other day that was run talking about how bad it is for not so much, not in these words, but gender affirming care is bad, basically, is what
Mhm.
the gist of the ad was. And so people are seeing that. Kids are seeing that, and they're just like I talked about with me not wanting to come out at a certain point. That's what's going to continue to happen if this rhetoric continues. And if this comes to a point where people won't have access to any any type of care that would
Yeah.
be affirming for them.
Mhm. Mhm. It's interesting because it's really bullying by law,
Yeah.
and that's really absolutely horrible and sad.
Yeah.
Um, So if you are somebody, I'm just going to be our last question, but if you're
Okay.
somebody who, like, gender is not something you question within
hmm
yourself,
hmm
how can you be supportive of people who do?
You, yes, as someone who does not question gender, does not question sexuality, anything like that, I would say you want to create an environment that is supportive, that is affirming. So like in my office, I have hints of things that show me as an affirming person. So things like pictures or um I don't have flags in here, but anything like that that would provide some level of support. I think it's also I use the term supervision and consultation, but getting talking to people, getting an understanding of things, getting a respect. I don't want to say an understanding because I don't think we can always understand everything about something. So if we can at least sit down and respect each other and have these conversations, I think that's a big part of it. How can we get to that? I think we potentially could. People just have to be willing to have those conversations.
Have you watched Will and Harper yet?
Not yet. That is one of my clients was actually just talking about that the other day, and so
Got to
it's
do
on my
that this
list.
weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
on my
watched
list.
that with my wife, and uh, it wasn't anything I didn't know, but I do work in this area.
hmm
But
Yep.
I think it's going to be really, really helpful for people who, and Will Ferrell
Yes.
is like, your typical 65-year-old white guy. You know?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, he made it was awkward, some of the things, but he's trying,
hmm
which I give him
hmm
a lot of credit for that. And also Harper is just on the beginning of her journey. So
Right.
like, and I can see that as somebody who works with people who
hmm
are just in the beginning of their
Yep.
journey. So I would love for them to revisit it in a couple of years and do it again,
Yeah. Yeah.
because Will have gotten used to Harper being Harper, and Harper will have gotten used to being openly out trans woman.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
They should do it in a couple years.
Yeah.
And and the reality is too, I don't want to give too much of it away though. She was really shielded in that
hmm
journey, being with Will Ferrell and
Gotcha.
being with a straight white man, you
Right.
know. So,
Right.
and I think if the journey was by herself, she wouldn't have been able to access the same type of
hmm
venues that she was. And she says that in that she knows it. But you
Yeah.
need to watch that.
I definitely will. Yes, it is on my list of stuff to watch.
So, Koran, did you have
Yes.
a coming out song?
I don't think I had a coming out song.
Nothing to
Um
beat on the dance floor every time?
no, no, it's interesting. I was thinking about that and I'm like, I don't think I had anything that really solidified that for me.
Mhm,
Um I I would say something, I don't know, something dancey, if
mhm,
if anything.
mhm.
But yeah, I can't pinpoint one particular song. I think what I written about was
Break
listening
my
to,
soul.
yeah, Break My Soul a lot. And so I mean it reminds me a lot of some of that, like not allowing people to break me down. And I really like when that song came out back in 2020, like I really took on to that because of some of those experiences.
Well, yeah, and also the pandemic was starting to happen,
Yes.
and man, that broke a lot
Yes.
of people's souls.
Yes.
You're a Brene Brown fan, I say, so you
I
really love
am.
that book. So, you mentioned The Gifts of Imperfection. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, I can't talk. The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene
Yes.
Brown as one of. So, why did you like that so much?
I think because she broke down those different tenets of how to how to not be perfect, how to see yourself as not this perfect person. And I know as I talked about being the oldest, I saw myself as having to be this perfect person, this perfect sibling, this perfect child. And so reading that, it really helped me to understand like I'm not going to be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect.
Mm.
And it's okay. That's
It
okay to not be perfect. You
actually
you
is a
are
leap.
Hugh.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, like I'm a recovering perfectionist as well. So,
Hmm.
it's really nice to put it down. It's really nice to put it down.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll never forget when I was young and I would have an argument or something, I never could admit that, I was wrong,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, and like when I first started doing that and being able to say, yeah, that was my fault. I'm so sorry that I was wrong about that and stuff like that. There is such a release to that because
Yes.
I think there's a piece of ourselves that we knows we're wrong. we won't we won't admit it because that
Exactly.
means we're not perfect. But
Yep.
once you like, it's so freeing not to be perfect. I love it.
I completely agree with you. I
Love it.
completely agree with you.
How would you describe your life today, honey?
I would describe my life as very happy.
Mhm.
I am very happy. Stressed, but very happy.
Yeah.
I think that I've taken my life and I've taken things and I've run with it. So after leaving my hometown, really being able to live the way that I want to live, and even going back and visiting family, still being able to live the way that I live, and having that support and things like that. So I would say I feel really really happy with the way that my life has come about, and continues to go.
Hmm. How can people find you if they're like, hey, I need to talk to this dude?
Yes.
So
So
what's the easiest way for people to find you?
the best way to get a hold of me is through email, honestly. It's contact at
Mm.
letstalksolutions.org.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much
Thank
for
you so
being
much.
on the show today. It was a great conversation, and I really appreciate anybody who takes on, well, you're not taking on the bullies, you're helping people recover from the bullies.
Yes.
So that is
Yes.
wonderful work. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA plus stories with Anne-Marie Zanzal. New episodes of the Coming Out and Beyond podcast drop every other Friday. You can tune in at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and at annemariezanzal.com. Be sure to hit subscribe when tuning in so you never miss an episode. And for more resources, articles, videos, and a free downloadable guide for coming out later in life, visit annemariezanzal.com.